right, here we go again. Democrats have made a fatal mistake when it comes to their credibility. They're not blaming the president for the Minnesota state lawmaker shooting. Also, the president is doubling down on going into inner cities and deporting illegal aliens. And we also have a stunning update in regards to Israel and Iran. And of course, we're going to show you what both sides are saying and then give you the bottom line.
On the breaking news out of Minnesota, police have arrested the man suspected of shooting two Minnesota lawmakers and their spouses. One lawmaker and her husband were killed. Another lawmaker and his wife survived. And it was just a short time ago that police there released this booking photo of their suspect, Vance Bolter. You see him here after he was processed by authorities. The Minneapolis Star-Tribune reporting that Bolter is charged now with 2 counts of murder and another 2 counts of attempted murder.
Okay, so no question that this is great news on a Monday morning. And again, it is a tragedy. And there's just a couple of things I want to go through and show you to help you think for yourself here. Number one, mainstream media and Democrats are already blaming President Trump. That's the bottom line there. Number two, conservatives, including myself, who jumped the gun, we got it wrong. According to his roommate, this guy is a Republican and supports President Trump. Now, here's the bottom line on that. I'm not buying that until I see supporting videos or documents or a website I can go to that shows me his political affiliation and, you know, the money that he donated or the who he actually voted for. So it's speculation all around here. So what I'm just going to focus on already is highlighting that speculation and how it's being weaponized to paint a particular narrative. So again, that's why I say don't always take my word for things, guys. I get things wrong all the time, and I'm willing to admit it. Now, let me show you a senator, Democrat, by the way, who's claiming that this is President Trump's fault. Take a listen.
There was a state representative, Democratic leader of the state legislature in Minnesota killed over the weekend, a state senator shot. How would you describe the current political atmosphere in this country this morning?
I feel like Trump has really popped the lid off the rhetoric and the sense of hate and violence and promoted this type of an environment. It's profoundly disturbing for all of us. We have seen increased threats across the country. You're probably familiar with the pizza threats. We've seen more of that where pizzas or other food is delivered to people's families that they haven't ordered, just to say from the right wing, we know who you are, we know where you live. I can tell you all of our families feel a greatly heightened sense. And just let me just say, my heart goes out to the families in Minnesota. How horrific for the whole country, but particularly we're holding the folks in Minnesota in our hearts.
Okay, so that is just a disgusting take, and I'll explain why I say that. But before I do, if you guys have been getting value from our channel, please like, share, and subscribe. If you want to support us further, go to the link in the description below. You could buy us a cup of coffee or shop our merch store where we recently dropped our new t-shirt, I Support ICE, and the matching coffee mug. Also, don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcast. Now, in regards to this senator who is from Oregon, it's just a disgusting take, and I'm going to explain why. As you guys know, I like to be fair in my reactions, okay? I have a bias. I'm a conservative, no question about it. But listen, I will call out President Trump and his administration when I believe they're doing something wrong. Unfortunately for Democrats, they can't do that for their own party to save their life. This guy claims that it's all on President Trump, but he has forgotten that it's his party that keeps saying that President Trump is a Nazi, he's a white supremacist, he's going to destroy our country, he's an existential threat. I mean, saying these things are definitely extreme, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you would agree to that. Now, of course, Tim Walz is making the same mistake. Take a listen.
The whole premise was debating with a sense of goodwill, a sense of trying to come to compromises that serve everyone. And because of her, we did that. Because of her, we did that year after year after year. That's the embodiment of how things are supposed to work. It's not about hatred. It's not about mean tweets. It's not about demeaning someone. It's leading with grace and compassion and vision and compromise and decency. That was taken from us in Minnesota with the murder of Speaker Hortman.
And guys, I have to say it again. It's just peak hypocrisy. Democrats claim about decency and treating people with respect. But where was that during COVID when you locked down our schools? You kicked veterans out of the military because they did not want to get the vaccine. Okay, you locked up pro-lifers, put them in prison because they wanted to protest Planned Parenthood. You censored conservatives off social media. And again, I say this all the time. There were people who were not even at the Capitol on January 6th who were locked up and sent to prison. So why do I say all those things? Is because Democrats, they're exactly what they accuse President Trump of being, except the difference is they do it in the shadows. I respect President Trump that if he's going to be what they say he's going to be, he's going to do it in your face and you're going to know he's doing it. But again, for the record, because everything they say about President Trump is so extreme, the average person can't even discern what is true and false. And that's the problem with the way they report on President Trump. And here's just another example. They allow people to come onto the news and make these statements that really are not rooted in any truth. It's not backed up by any facts. It's just an opinion. Take a listen.
The truth is, people in public service have a right to feel vulnerable right now and need to take precautions. I think all of us who have been or are in public service have to keep doing our work and not be intimidated, because I think this is exactly what Donald Trump and some of the people around him want, is an atmosphere where people shirk and shy away from their service. We certainly saw that with the election workers who felt under threat in 2020 and 2024, but thank God kept at their post and kept doing their work. So the true answer to your question is no, people are not safe. Law enforcement can do a lot to help, and we need, in fact, even more help when there are those threats. But even with that reality, we have to keep doing our work. We can't let an atmosphere that's trying to destroy democracy and undermine people's willingness to go out and serve the public. We can't let that rule the day.
Okay, so according to the former mayor of New York City, it's President Trump's fault for why our political atmosphere is what it is today. And Democrats share no responsibility in that. And once again, I feel like I'm repeating myself here. That's why they have no credibility. And what's interesting is the total contradiction. He represents a party that believes in defunding the police, but they want the police to help in this political landscape when we see in Los Angeles, citizens are assaulting police officers. Tell me how you make sense of that. You don't even call out your own side for encouraging, or at a minimum, they won't even condemn that behavior until it's too late. And so now what I want to do is show you the most updated news from the FBI in regards to this tragedy, and a key piece of information that will leave you stunned. Take a listen.
Belter approached Representative Hortman's home, again dressed as a police officer, wearing the tactical vest and body armor, and wearing that hyper-realistic mask. He was armed and carrying a flashlight. Before he entered the home, 2 Brooklyn Park police officers arrived at the scene. They too had been dispatched to check on Representative Hortman after learning of the shooting of Senator Hoffman. When they arrived at the scene, they saw Belter's black SUV parked in the driveway with the emergency lights flashing, and they saw Belter standing in front of the house several feet from the door. When Belter saw the officers get out of the car, he drew his weapon and began firing. He rushed into the house through the front door, firing into it. He repeatedly fired into the house, and when he entered, he murdered Representative Hortman and her husband, Mark. The Brooklyn Park police officers fired at Belter as he rushed into the home, but he escaped into the home and out the back.
All right, so talk about bad luck when you're listening to those chilling details. It was a welfare check. It wasn't actually a response to someone calling 911 on the scene. So, of course, they only send 2 police officers. A shootout ensues. He still finds a way to get into the home by shooting his way into it, of course. Finds the state lawmaker, murders her and her husband, escapes out the back, and they still don't catch him. I mean, that's just straight up bad luck and unfortunate. Now, what is fortunate is not only did they catch him, but the charges that have now been filed against him federally. Take a listen.
Well, there's some news. Federal charges against Vance Belter and the killing of House Speaker in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and her husband. Amazing police work after the shooting at the Hoffman residence. Police just proactively thought to go to a wellness check at the Hortman home, and that is where they encountered the suspect, who is now charged counts 1 and 2 with stalking. This is on the federal level. Counts 3 and 4 murder charges that are death penalty eligible. not at the state level, but now these federal charges make him death penalty eligible. Nicole Parker, a source at DOJ, told me that this U.S. attorney for Minnesota, we've been watching, Joe Thompson, he's been in the FBI command center with his entire team when this crime occurred. The entire weekend, he has not once gone home. Federal law enforcement from top to bottom has been on this. And the Trump administration in particular, they say this speaks to their involvement to get federal charges this quickly.
Okay, so that is the big update in regards to this tragedy. And here's another thing. Democrats claim that this is all on President Trump. His rhetoric is why this is happening. But as long as they continue to go out and say things like that, and they don't take responsibility and condemn their own side, it will continue to happen regardless. And unfortunately, I don't believe they see it that way. And in our next story, this is just another prime example of how people, even on the same side politically, don't see things the same way. And we're talking about Israel and Iran. There's no question that there are people who want to help Israel destroy Iran and whatever's left of it in regards to their nuclear program. There's definitely people who have zero sympathy for the Iranian people because they believe, generally speaking, they are screaming death to America every day that they wake up. And then there are people who don't care either way. They just don't want nothing to do with a Middle Eastern country, especially when you're talking about war. So let me show you this clip from Tucker Carlson, who's claiming that if President Trump sides with Israel here, that this will be the end of his presidency as we know it. Take a look.
I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency and effectively end it. And so that's why I'm saying this.
What do you mean by that? That's coming from you. That's
you get. Look, I knew Bush. I knew George W. Bush. We had, family connections to Bush. I knew Bush personally. I still see Bush sometimes, and of course, he hates me, and he does because I criticized him on Iraq, and that war is the sum total, from a historical perspective, of his administration. But I knew him, and he had all kinds of plans for the things that he wanted to do. But once domestically, right, to improve the country.
Right.
And you may agree or disagree, but like in his mind, he wasn't just about the invasion of Iraq in March of 2000.
Oh, no. He was going to redo Social Security.
100%,
He had all this, all
100%.
types of. He was going to take care of the entitlements issue.
And he really thought it was going to work.
Yep.
And you could laugh at that or whatever, but the point is, the second you get enmeshed in a real war, not a fake, let's go bomb the villagers and declare success, though we don't even have a good track record. Like, why are the Houthis still there?
Okay, so I think you guys are getting the gist of the way Tucker Carlson sees this, including other conservatives. They believe if President Trump supports Israel and actually joins forces to destroy Iran and its nuclear program, that's going to be the end of President Trump's presidency. That would be him breaking all principles when it comes to America first, that half of his base is going to turn against him. Now, I find this to be jumping the gun in some cases, because the president has not actually made an official statement on what they're going to do. All of this is really just reports and sources. Now, I do agree if we were going to get involved, and when I say get involved, I'm not talking about from a distance. We're actually sending troops over there and paying and providing resources to take out Iran. Yeah, I could see why that would be a bad look for President Trump. And I would also see why it would be a huge distraction from his America First agenda. So that is a great point by Tucker Carlson. I have no qualms with that. But I do have qualms with people making these premature judgments about what's going to happen to Trump when he hasn't even made a decision yet, let alone an official statement. Now, here's more of what Tucker had to say.
I mean, there's a whole other question, right, which is how prepared is the U.S. military for a real conflict? And the answer is totally unprepared. Scary unprepared. I don't think people understand that. But anyway, the only reason I'm saying any of this is because I really, really care. And it's been, what a disaster for me personally. I mean, it's like the last thing I wake up, all these texts, well, I can't believe you're so evil, you hate this or that. I just want to restate, I don't hate anybody. And to the extent I do hate people, I try to repent of it. I don't want to hate anybody. I really don't. I just don't want my country to be further weakened or destroyed by another one of these wars. And boy, if you can't connect the dots after 25 years of this shit, you're either too dumb to participate in the conversation, or you're, like Mark Levin, just a liar who doesn't care.
Okay, so before I show you what President Trump had to say this morning in Canada at the G7 summit, because he did take questions in regards to this, I'm definitely with Tucker on that point that he made towards the end. We have historical data to prove that getting involved with this conflict between Israel and Iran is not actually going to be a great return on investment in regards to our country, especially we're at a point where America First is needed now more than ever. No question about that. Now, I'm not naive and I'm not an idiot either. There are certain circumstances that would warrant the U.S. to at least provide some specialized resource to take out the Iran's nuclear program. And in that regard, if explained properly, I could see the justifiable reason for pulling the trigger on that. But that doesn't mean that soldiers like troops and a brigade or battalion is being deployed, right? These are U.S. forces that have already been in the area historically. So I think we definitely should define when we say that America is going to get involved. We have always been involved. Let's not be naive here, folks. It's just to what degree exactly we are involved when it comes to the CIA. We're involved when it comes to Delta Force or special ops or intelligence. I mean, we're always involved in these Middle Eastern countries. Let's not be naive. The question is to what degree exactly is acceptable to the American people.
Have you heard any signals or seen any messages from intermediaries that Iran wishes to de-escalate the conflict?
Yeah.
What have you heard? What have you heard from the Iranians?
They'd like to talk, but they should have done that before. I had 60 days, and they had 60 days, and on the 61st day, I said, we don't have a deal. They have to make a deal, and it's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war. And they should talk, and they should talk immediately before it's too late.
Now, to the president's credit, there are supporting stories, reports, and even official statements that proves the president has been trying to work out an agreement with Iran in regards to their nuclear program. That is an example of diplomacy from President Trump. Unfortunately, these countries, they can't help themselves. And I'm talking about Israel as well. Do you think they really would rather go down the diplomacy route with Iran? Absolutely not. I mean, let's not, again, be naive here, okay? I've said it time and time again. These countries have been at war for generations on end, and nothing's going to stop that. And to prove my point, I want you to listen to what Netanyahu had to say on ABC News this morning.
It's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
Okay, so I don't know about you, but that sounds familiar to what Zelensky had to say. He claimed that if we didn't help Ukraine, that we would be next, that Russia would come after us. And now Netanyahu is on ABC News this morning saying that if we don't help them take out Iran, that Iran is going to take out America. Now, I don't know about you and how that sits with you, but my only response to that would be this. If you want to use your men and women, your soldiers, your citizens of Israel, and your resources and money to destroy Iran and remove it off the face of this earth, go right on ahead. I don't think you really need America's help in that regard, especially our men and women. And I firmly believe majority of Americans support that sentiment as well. But as I continue to tell you, because this is the cold hard truth, we are already involved. The question still remains to what degree. And I believe this individual on CNN made that abundantly clear. Take a listen.
The United States' involvement in this from a strategic standpoint. There are folks out there who believe that Donald Trump is actually egging Netanyahu on, and there are folks out there who say that Netanyahu is trying to drag the U.S. into a war with Iran. How do you see it?
The U.S. is involved. The U.S. is, of course, the principal external military supporter of Israel. It's also providing real-time intelligence, and none of that is going to be cut off or suspended, as it was briefly with Ukraine, for example, despite this war. So, I mean, clearly the Americans are waist deep, neck deep. What the Americans have not done is directly attacked Iran. And what President Trump is doing very clearly at the G7 today is he is warning the Iranians that that will come if they are not going to now take a last possible chance for a negotiation. I think that Trump would accept sitting down yet again with the Iranians for a sixth time. But if that happens and it doesn't pan out, then you're going to see the Americans either directly or providing the material to the Israelis directly that would allow for this critical attack against the deep underground nuclear capabilities that Iran has that Israel can't take out by themselves in Fordo. One way or another, that's where we're going if the Iranians do not back down.
And I believe his statement to be mostly true. And I think that's what needs to be communicated to all Americans so they get the full picture of what's going on here. We are already involved. Again, I keep saying it. To what degree, I think could be debated. But there's no question we are. And Americans need to voice their opinion. To what degree is acceptable? I think that is the nuanced response here. Now, let's go to our next story because this is interesting. President Trump, I would say, went nuclear on Truth Social with a post last night. And of course, Democrats and mainstream media is claiming that not only is he inciting violence, but he is intentionally looking to violate the U.S. Constitution in regards to doubling down on mass deportations in these larger cities. Now, before we get to what he said, I want you to hear this report from the Media Research Center on the coverage of these mass deportations and the riots that ensued. Take a look.
A study from the Media Research Center shows that from June 11th to the 12th, CNN and MSNBC personalities insisted the anti-ICE demonstrations were peaceful 211 times.
Say it one more time.
211 times they were peaceful.
Okay, so here's the statement from the president that sparked a meltdown from people on the left. And I'll just give you the bottom line because it's definitely too long to read. Number one, he's voicing his support once again for ICE, FBI, DEA, ATF, all these federal agencies that are involved in deporting illegal aliens. He gave them a personal endorsement and support. Number two, he called out Democrats, which is what I actually want to bring to your attention. In order to achieve this, which is to execute the largest mass deportation operation in history, we must expand efforts to detain and deport illegal aliens in America's largest cities, such as Los Angeles, Chicago, New York, where millions upon millions of illegal aliens reside. These and other such cities are the core of the Democrat power center, where they use illegal aliens to expand their voter base, cheat in elections, and grow the welfare state, robbing good-paying jobs and benefits from hardworking American citizens. Now, here's the thing that really struck a nerve. These radical left Democrats are sick of mine, hate our country, and actually want to destroy our inner cities. And they are doing a good job of it. There is something wrong with them, and that is why they believe in open borders, transgender for everybody, and men playing in women's sports. And that is why I want ICE, Border Patrol, and our great and patriotic law enforcement officers to focus on our crime-ridden and deadly inner cities, those places where sanctuary cities play such a big role. This is why you don't hear about sanctuary cities in our heartland. And that's the bottom line, ladies and gentlemen. The president is tripling down. He's not going to let up. Now, here's what he's had to say about all this at the G7 summit this morning. Take a listen.
I want them to focus on the cities because the cities are where you really have what's called sanctuary cities, and that's where the people are. I look at New York. I look at Chicago. I mean, you got a really bad governor in Chicago and a bad mayor, but the governor's probably the worst in the country, Pritzker. But I look at how that city has been overrun by criminals, and New York and L.A. Look at L.A. L.A. Those people weren't from L.A. They weren't from California. Most of those people, many of those people, and that's a focus. Biden allowed 21 million people to come into our country. Of that, vast numbers of those people were murderers, killers, people from gangs, people from jails. They emptied their jails out into the U.S. Most of those people are in the cities, all blue cities, all Democrat-run cities, and they think they're going to use them to vote. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, here's the reality that we need to face, is that even though this may seem on the surface as extreme decisions or measures from the president, he's reacting to the former president and that administration where they were extreme in their decision making. And that's the reality. When you're too extreme, the reaction to that is extreme as well. So people should not be shocked by what President Trump is doing. they should be shocked that their elected leaders laid the groundwork and really set up a situation where President Trump has no choice but to make decisions like this. But according to some Democrats, they believe this is an impeachable offense by the president. Take a listen.
You've described what Trump is doing in Los Angeles as lawlessness and unconstitutional and a violation of human rights. Do these things rise to the level of impeachment? Are these impeachable offenses?
Well, you know, I believe it is. I definitely believe it is.
All right. So I don't think you're shocked that Democrats want to find any reason possible to impeach the president. I don't believe Los Angeles even rises to that level. That is a complete joke, but no shocker there. And the reality is the president has a point. Inner cities have suffered the most because of what Biden did. And we're not just always talking about crime. It's also resources, finances, healthcare costs, taxes, jobs, all of these, education, all of these have been strained when you allow millions upon millions to flood a particular area in a short period of time. And that brings me to your turn. I want to get your guys' reaction to these stories in the comment section below. Let's start off probably with the most controversial one. What do you think of what Tucker Carlson had to say? Do you see things the same way when it comes to Israel and Iran? Also, what do you think of the update when it comes to the shooter and the additional details that has come to light and the federal charges now pending against him? And ultimately, people's reaction to President Trump's latest posts. Give me all of your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, if you follow my podcast, then you probably already know we love to highlight when Democrats and mainstream media continue to make a fool of themselves. And that's exactly what happened in yesterday's video. They claimed that the military parade celebrating the U.S. Army's 250th birthday was going to be a disaster. It was going to be all about President Trump. But little did they know, they had to painfully admit out loud that it was the polar opposite of that. So if you missed out on that video, more stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.